Hello, and welcome to another cue breakdown. We're looking at some hip hop tension, and there's three reasons I wanted to show you this particular track. One is I wrote it a while ago, but it's since been placed in police interceptors in a few episodes in the background, so that's nice to know that it's actually being used. The second one is all the sounds are from Logic, so it's all the built-in Logic sounds and loops that you get. I have played around with some of the effects and I'll show you those. And the third reason is I've actually used the pattern programmer instead of just MIDI regions. So let's have a listen to it so you can follow along. Watch how the yellow synth lines come in and out as it builds through the track. And remember, like and subscribe, always appreciated if you find this sort of stuff useful, so you know when more of it comes up. Okay, let's have a listen and then I'll go through it with you. Okay, there you have it. Bit of hip hop tension. So what we should probably look at is the parts that actually drive the tune. The bass is pretty much the constant throughout, and this is a really good example of a template to follow if you don't want to overcomplicate things, but you still want to get the idea of A, B, A sort of structures for your cues, because you really have to focus, because this is based around just the one chord. You really need to focus on bringing things in and out to make it interesting. So as I said, we'll come back to the three synths at the top in yellow, but the bass itself is nice and simple. And all that is ES2 with some channel EQ taking off the top end. There is a bit of delay designer, and then a limiter so it doesn't go mad. The other constant is pretty much this hip hop kit, and this has been programmed with these loops from the pattern library. So there are slight variations. So this one is less busy than this one, for example. If we play this one, And then this one slightly more involved. And let's start from the beginning of it. And they alternate, so later on you can see the less busy ones come in. Even in the middle of that end section, I've put in the slightly laid back version, so it still mixes it up, even though we're getting towards the end climax of the piece. So set up your bass and your drums. That's a good foundation. Then I've got the effects here. So these are the risers and the hits. And they are just from Logic Loop Library. Occasionally I have then just used the hits on their own. And any time I think there is a riser, it is always followed by a boom. And that's all there is to those effect channels. Then on top of the hip hop kit, I've also put this electric loop. So it's not overly busy, but it really does add to the kit. That's a bit dry on its own. Put in a loop over the top. The only thing I had to be a bit careful of here was making sure I took off the very low frequencies, because it was becoming quite boomy because they've both got low kicks in. This one isn't EQ'd very much at all, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't just building up a load of mud, as they say, in the bass end, so take some of that low end off. You'll notice on these we have the bass slightly panned to the left along with the effects, and that electric kit is actually slightly off to the right. So again, it's a way of making sure it doesn't quite get in the way of the kit. Okay, all that's left to have a look at really is the synth part. So there's this sunrise chords go through the entire section apart from this little breakdown, and all they are doing is this. And that's all they do. They provide that foundation through the track. This was a retro synth pre-programmed sunrise chords. So that was all those effects were automatically loaded in. And then we've got this digital gate. So again, quick sampler, which I actually messed around with a little bit. So we've got various elements popping in and out, along with adding step effects over the top to change the sound. So you can see that the gate is the one that's changing there. I haven't used the filter or the pan, it's just gating the signal. And again, this comes in and out along with those sunrise chords. So when they play together, and then it's noticeable when they drop out. And finally, we've got this fun techno lead, which again is, using a pattern programmer. So remember, you don't have to create MIDI regions all the time. You can do pattern regions, and then there are loads of different patterns you can load up from, really. The world is sort of your lobster, as they say. So what does this do? Well, we've set up this pattern here, and this techno lead is actually the sum of a lower layer and an upper layer, but they are summed together into this one track, so they play together, and they are playing together this pattern. So it's a little bit random, and then there's a variation here. And if you can just about see, there are less notes going on in that one, which I took out as opposed to the later ones. And then again, it dies down a little bit there and then comes back for the finale. The other thing to say is, yeah, we've got some panning, and each time I've done the panning, I have always done stereo pan. So remember, that means that it shifts the sound of the left and the right both, as opposed to normal panning where it just drops the sound on one side or the other, but you would lose any stereo effect. So if you do stereo pan, I tend to pretty much only use stereo pan. And you try and balance the different sounds that are going on at the same time. So if they're, so these summarized chords are always to the left, anything joining it is to the right. In terms of master effects, there's an exciter, followed by the fast attack 4-band, multipressor. There's some stereo spread at the high end to give it a bit of space, and we've got the adaptive limiter on there as well, so it doesn't go above 0. That's what the library at the time wanted. Normally I would be limiting at -1 is required for most libraries these days, but if they say 0, you do 0. There you go. We'll have a listen to that again as a bit of an outro, why not? And I'll click through the different parts. You'll probably spot more this time as well. And don't forget, like and subscribe, always appreciated. See you in the next video.